Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. It is Thursday. It's time for some captains ahead of round 9. Good week last week for us in terms of captains. We did get pipped by the big boys, the ball boys, so Mitch coming second overall for the week. But on Captain's Challenge, we came third for the week, which was pretty nice. Having, Big Mac's gone at number 1 with his massive 158. Cherry 121, Sheezer 134, Smith 119, and Dawson with a 122. So good week for captains last week. The only change between me and Mitch's team was he had Dawson at 4 and Bailey Smith at 5. So I probably should have gone there because I like Dawson more. Obviously one of my boys. But no, still very good week from the captain. So hopefully can get you guys some good captains for round 9 as well. So let's get stuck in to my top 10 for round 9. And coming in number 1, don't know if he's going to be number 1 for many. It'd be interesting to see what other sort of experts have done for this week. But I've got Marcus Bontempelli sitting at number 1 for my captains in round 9. So he's come back and he's looked $1 million without playing much football before even. We didn't play any footy before coming back, right? So he's come back, average 108, 119, 79 and 126. At 79, he was subbed out at 3/4 time. So I'll just assume that he was probably going to ton up again in that game. So 3 tons to start, 2 big scores. Comes up against Gold Coast this week, so I like the matchup here for him. So his last few games against Gold Coast have been pretty decent. So just getting his top 5 because I've got the notes and Res Magic stuff all open, so I can refer to that back for you guys as well. So Gold Coast are currently, if I have a look at terms of the hardest matchups, they are about middle of the pack. So 2, 4, 6. So they're the, was that 2, 4, 6? They're the 8th hardest, or 8th easiest matchup, for mid. So they're one of the teams giving up over 100 points per mid per game. So that's pretty good there. I'm using, obviously, Moreau's Magic website to refer to those stats. But the Bont's last 5 against Gold Coast is turned up in all 5. 104, 116, 116, 105, 133. That 116 as well, the first one, that was at TIO as well. So he's shown he can score well there. I think Gold Coast, I don't know who's going to go with him necessarily. So I think the Bont can have a pretty big day here and go really well. I'm expecting a 120 score from him. So I've got him at number 1. He's in form and the Dogs are also playing really well. That's another key factor there. So he's at number 1. But coming at number 2, Nick Dacos. It was hard to split these two at number 1 for me. I think these are both my 2 favourites this week. I like both matchups for them. I've got Nick Dacos at 2, so his form against Frere has been fantastic. 133, 132 in his last 2 against them. Absolutely fantastic. And he's obviously been in great form. Scored the 92 last week. That was his first sort of blemish for a while. But outside of that, he's had a lot of these big scores, right? So since the 76 against Carlton, he got tagged for 136, 131, 120, and then the one score that wasn't great was 92 last week. I expect to go back over 110 this week. And probably could be a mistake not having him at number 1 this week, maybe. I don't think a lot of people got Bont, so I think a lot of people are going to go for Dacos anyway. I think Dacos is an easy VC tonight. I think that he'll go quite well, and I'm potentially bringing him in this week. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it yet, but he's someone I'm considering bringing in. Coming at number 3, I have got Harry Sheezel against Brisbane. I know Brisbane's doesn't on paper look like an amazing matchup there. So for defenders, they are the 5th hardest matchup for defenders. I just think Harry Sheezel is a different kettle of fish when it comes to this. So obviously 134 last week, great score there. So down at Ninja Stadium, so home game for as such for North Melbourne, but he's in there just basically because he's averaging over 120 in this role, right? So that's why he's there at number 3. I think he's a really safe captain option coming in the last game. As I said, I know Brisbane are a bit trickier, but last week they played Gold Coast. It was a bit wet. That's probably why their defend numbers are slightly down. Normally they'd be middle of the pack, Brisbane, but they obviously had a good game last week with those defenders. So I still expect Harry Shees to go well. And it is a tough week for captains as well. I probably should have said at the start of the video. It's a very tough week for captains. A lot of the easy matchups have been taken. So Hawthorn have got Melbourne. So Hawthorn obviously don't have a huge amount of fantasy sort of options for us to captains. And then Richmond and West Coast play each other. So that's the 3 easy matchups essentially all wiped out. So, and then you got Showdown. I don't think that's normally, it's not normally a high scoring fantasy game. So there's a lot of sort of big options that normally are up here, aren't here this week. So I'm backing in a few guys based on some form and some sort of role and stuff like that. But yeah, Bont and Dacos were the good roles at 1 and 2, but Sheezel at 3 with the tougher game against Brisbane, but scored 121 against them last year at Norwood. So I don't really see he's going to tag him. So I think he'll go well and a good option at number 3. Number 4, I've got Max Gawn. So he's in here, again, based a bit on form. So he obviously been absolutely killing it the last month. He's obviously been the man in form. So he's gone in the last 4, 118, 125, 138, 158, absolutely killing it. And I think if you've got him, I think he's got to be in your captain, vice-captaincy plans. He's got the ceiling. His form at the moment is really high as well. I really like him. So he's in my top 5. Hawthorn, in terms of ruck matchup this year, it says that they are currently the 7th hardest matchup for rucks. But there's only 2 teams giving over 100. There's a lot of teams sort of in this bunch giving up an average of 85 to like 96. Hawthorn is one of those. I just think Gawn against Meek. Obviously, Meek's not as easy as some of the other guys that Gawn's come up against, but it's at the MCG. And I expect Gawn to put up another good score once again. So Gawn is number 4 for me. Coming in at number 5, I have got Lachie Whitfield in there. Again, I just think he's the highest averaging player this year, averaging 115.3. He's going along very, very nicely. He's only had the one score. Obviously, opening only got 99, but then the only score below 100 in the actual fantasy season is 86 against St Kilda, and that was at Norwood as well. And apparently, I heard somewhere, I think maybe it was MJ said that maybe he got some attention that day. I'm not sure if it was MJ that said it, or someone said he got attention against St Kilda. So lower score there, but his recent history against I've just had a mental blank who they're playing. Geelong. 90, 102, 93, 113, 112. So not great recent history against Geelong. I'm just backing him in. I think Geelong are a decent matchup there. It is at GMHBA Stadium, so that's not great. But Geelong are in the top half in terms of for defenders. So 2, 4, 6. So the 7th easiest matchup for defenders. And I'm backing Whitfield in to have a good score there as well. So he is my number 5. And I didn't say Gawn. So Gawn's history against Hawthorn as well was a 107, 100, 89, 149, and 95. So some lower scores, but there was that big 149, and we know that he can do that. So I think it could be a good VC or even captaincy shout there. Going from 6 through to 10, so my number 6 this week is Josh Dunkley against North Melbourne. I like the matchup here, 114, 102, 96 in his last 3 against North Melbourne. Down at Ninja Stadium, so if it was at Marvel or something else, I'd be a little bit more keen on this. He probably would have bumped into the top 5 if that was the case. But Ninja Stadium, not quite sure. I think it's fine for North, but Brisbane obviously haven't played there a huge amount. I'm interested to see how they go down there. But yeah, Dunkley, still though, been in great form. I like him as a target, as a trade-in target this week, and also as a captain option in the final game. So Dunkley is my number 6. Coming in number 7, it's going to be down the list a fair bit, I reckon. Yeah. Down here. So I got Andrew Brayshaw at number 7. A lot of people be saying, oh, Collingwood, if you go to the sort of the matchups against for mids, Collingwood aren't too easy. So they are the 2, 4, 6. They're the 8th hardest matchup. So middle of the road, right? So 8th hardest, but Collingwood aren't giving up anywhere near as many points as they have been. Two key factors in this for me being pretty keen on him, particularly as VC, is that Collingwood have rested a few of their players. So obviously they've rested a few of their stars. So Pennells has been rested, Degoe's been rested, Mychek's been rested, and Braden Maynard has also been rested. So they're the 4 that have been rested. So that's a lot of experience out of that side. So Jeremy Howe, Ed Allen, Sullivan, and Markov come in. But I think a few of those mids going out going to make it a bit easier for Freo. And also the fact that Freo have been under a bit of pressure this week. Obviously they've been bad away from home. And I think they're going to respond. And I think Brayshaw was poor as well last week, along with Sarong. I think those two are going to have good games tonight. Whether Sarong gets to a good score from a fantasy standpoint is obviously a question, but I think Brayshaw will get there. So I'm backing Brayshaw for a good game. I don't think Collingwood is a scary matchup by any means, and being over at Optus, I think that sort of goes into the fact I think he'll go well. Brayshaw's last 4 games, he's turned up against Collingwood as well, 109, 110, 127, 111. So the hope is he can go well and put up a 120-plus score, but obviously there's a chance that he just gets 100. But I'm hoping that he goes well tonight, and he, at the moment, could be my VC there if I don't bring in a Nick Dacos. Tom Green is at number 8, so I've got him there. So he comes up against Geelong. Where's Tom Green? Is he down the list here? Yeah, there you go, down the list there. So I've got Tom Green, number 8, 91, 108, 98 in his last 3 against Geelong. But Geelong are a decent matchup for mids, so they are currently the 5th easiest matchup for mids at the moment. If anyone's going to be tagged, it's going to be a Finn Callahan or even a Whitfield potentially. I think Tom Green's fallen down the list in terms of tag targets. So for me, I think Tom Green will go quite well, and he is my number 8. And I don't mind him as well as a trade-in option. I think a few of these guys, obviously we've mentioned Dunkley and Green, they've got around 16 buy, so could be good trade-in targets as well, and they're in my top 10 for the week. At number 9, I've got Tim Taranto coming against West Coast. So we know West Coast, great matchup. They are the third easiest matchup for mids, and obviously one of the best matchups going around. I believe they're not giving out as many points as what you think in terms of a team overall standpoint, because defenders aren't going massive against them, especially at Optus, but mids are still going pretty well against them, and I expect Tim Taranto to be amongst the points, and sort of shows that with the lack of the options this week, when like Tim Taranto doesn't really have a ceiling, but he's in the top 10 purely because of the matchup, and there's not as many of these other good matchups going around. So I like him. He is my number 9. And I've got Tristan Cherry rounding out the top 10. So he's a pretty safe captain option coming home in the final game. Scored 102 against Big O last year. Just don't love the McInerney matchup. We know that he can be a restrictive ruckman to score against. I've seen he's given up a few more points than normal this year, but he still is the 6th hardest matchup for rucks this year. So he's one of the 6 rucks giving up less than 85 points a game. So I've got him there, and he is, tough one. But yeah, Tris Cherry's at number 10. But he's got to be in the list, though, because he's been in great form. So he's like recent form. I think he's turned up, gone over 115. I think he's at 3 straight games now. 116, 122, 121, and the 122 was against Port, who were restrictive at the time. So going really nicely. I think Tristan Cherry will go well, and he fits into the top 10. But just some of the other options here, 'cause there are a few options that are quite high that I don't have in my top 10 this week. So Bailey Smith against GWS. So GWS are one of the hardest matchups going around. I don't go for anyone normally that plays Giants, particularly Bedford if he plays as well. I think he could go to Bailey Smith and shut him down a bit. So I'm nervous with their Giants. I just don't like going anywhere near Giants as well. And if you're looking at here, Giants are the hardest matchup for mids at the moment. So for me, I'm going against Bailey Smith this week in the top 10. Jordan Dawson. He's not an awful option this week, right? But as I've mentioned, though, I don't love picking captains or vice-captains from the showdowns. And I know that we've had a few good scores recently. So like last year, there was a lot of tons, right? A lot of Port players tonned up. Like Butters went 143, Dawson 132. So last year I feel like it was a bit of an anomaly. I don't like the year before, the top scores are 115, and then a lot of these low hundreds. Then 2023... Dawson was big, Texas big, and then you had a few of the lower hundreds again. The year before, there was only 2 tons, Rosie Rankin. So, like, there have been some bigger scores in the past, and there are, like, showdowns are one of those ones where it can actually sometimes be a high score, but more often than not, they're not. And normally, our better options are the ones that get some attention or whatever. But like if you look here, Port are the 3rd hardest matchup for mids at the moment, and Adelaide are the 5th hardest matchup for mids. So I don't really love like your Dawsons or your Butters or anyone like that. I think my favourite probably from this game is probably Connor Rosey. Crows are giving up at the moment the 3rd most points for defenders. So Connor Rosey's down the list a bit. He's probably my favourite out of the 3 if I'm looking for someone there. But then again, Butters and Dawson have got the ceilings, whereas I don't know Rosie in the role's got the 130, 140 ceiling, just because those tackles might not be there, whereas Dawson and Butters can go there. I still don't mind them if you don't have someone from the game tonight and you've got a loophole like a Connor Stone, if he doesn't play late in the piece, then you could go for a Dawson or Butters VC, just have a look and see what they score and go into a Sheasel. Like I could do something like that if Connor Stone's not in the squad. I could just opt to go for a ceiling play instead of going Brayshaw, but if Connor Stone's named or something like that, or if you don't have a loop, because that's the other thing we've got to remember is that St Kilda and Carlton both play Friday night. So that's Camporelli, Boyd, Hasty. A lot of the common red dots play on the Friday. If you've got a red dot loop later on the round, obviously that makes things a little bit easier for loops. But yeah, I just don't love the showdown matchup. So that's why Dawson's not in my top 10. Zach Merritt against Sydney. So Sydney aren't as hard in terms of like for mids this year, in terms of what they have been. They're middle of the road. There, but the big thing here, I think James Jordan goes to Merritt this week, so that's why he's not in my top 10. Otherwise, I'd probably be looking at him as a trade target because he's got around 16 by, right? But I just don't love him this week. Sydney, I think he'll still get a solid enough score, like he might go 90, 95. Just don't see him going at 100 and being a captain option for us this week. Obviously, I mentioned Butters a bit with Dawson. Just don't love the showdown matchup. Again, he's had a decent history against the Crows, but I don't love the matchup. So I'm steering clear of the showdown this week, personally. A few people might go for a Dawson or a Butters or something, and by all means go for it. I'm just steering clear of the showdown. I just don't know if it's going to be a huge fantasy scoring game. Lockie Neal, I don't love him normally in fantasy as a captain option. Supercoach different, but Lockie Neal for fantasy, he can go big. I think I like him more as a VC than a straight captain, because he can get shut down. Does a Will Phillips, if he's still in the team, go to him? Or a Dusty Taylor, or someone, if they're in the team, go to him? That's my one question. But still, even I don't know if he could go big, but he could also go bad. So I don't love them as a captain option. They're a VC shout, not captain, and they play the final game. So not for me this week. Nank's probably the one that just misses out the top 10 that I actually like this week. So Nank hasn't been in good form at all. Like he's been pretty poor recently, but West Coast is by far and away the easiest matchup for rucks going around. So I think Nank can have a good game here. I'm just having a look at like Nank's recent form. So he's only averaging 88 for the year. He hasn't turned up since round 1. His last 4, 84, 66, 94, and 81. So I don't love that. Obviously, he's had a pretty tough run, right? So he had Gold Coast and Melbourne in there. Obviously, Gawn and Witts there. And only 81 against Meek last week. So his form isn't great, but if in draft, he could be a bit of a shout on the Sunday as a VC if it's a rolling lockout in draft. I like him there. So Nank, I think, will go pretty well this week. Nasiah and McRae isn't a bad option. Probably just miss out my top 10. Carlton. I know Dawson went well last week, and Carlton are a high stoppage team, but I don't usually love the matchup for Carlton. They're middle of the road for matchups there. So McRae could be a VC shout tomorrow night, right? He had the ceiling last week. I could see him going quite well. I just don't have him in the top 10. Just Carlton, I don't love that, but the high stoppage game could be good. Nasiah, I don't like. I know Carlton are a lot trickier for defenders to score against. They are the toughest matchup for defenders going around at the moment. So Nasiah, for me, don't love. If he goes in the mids this week, maybe he gets there. But I'm hoping he gets a good score anyway. And he's not normally typically a high ceiling player. I know he went at 130 the other week, but I think it's his only score over 120 this year. So not a VC shout for me this week. I think George Hill will respond, but ton run is over. Probably better options for captain. But if you got him, he could be a VC shout for you. Darcy Cameron, tougher matchup for Freo with Darcy and Jackson there. So not looking at him. Talked about Rosie before. Zorko against North. Don't love him as a captain option. He hasn't been as good lately with Jasper Fletcher taking a bit more ball back there. Wilmot as well. But he is an option there if you want to consider him. Didn't mention Crits, but I'm not looking at him. Not many people own him there. Newcombe could be a shout against Melbourne. Probably a better matchup there. But I don't love Newcombe as a captain option. Just don't think he's got the consistent ceiling there. Sarong could be a VC shout. I think he'll respond, but whether he responds with a good score or not, not sure. TDK is someone that I don't mind taking a stab at as a VC if you want to go something a bit different. This is a tough week for captains. If you want to go someone different, TDK, if he's solo, no Pitney, could go well against St Kilda where he's trying to get a contract potentially from him. So could be a decent shout if you're looking for a real pod VC. And Marshall, the same thing, right? Playing against the guy that might take his job. So maybe you go for someone like him. And I don't love Anderson in Darwin. Not my type of matchup there, so probably avoiding him. So they are the ones there that are in the mix. So for me, this week, obviously don't own many of my top 5. I only got one of them, so Sheezel. So Sheezel will be my captain in the final game of the round. And at the moment, I've got Brayshaw as my VC. Don't know if he's got the massive ceiling, but I just think he'll respond back at home. Maybe Freo slightly tweak and they take some more marks this week. So maybe Brayshaw gets involved in that. But I think Brayshaw can go well. I expect him to respond after 70. He normally responds after a lower score as well. So he's my VC. If I bring Dacos in, he will be my VC. At the moment, I don't have him. And I don't know if I'm going to pay up for him. Because I'm going either Caleb Daniel out or I'm going someone else out. I'm not sure. If I get Caleb Daniel out, I can get Nick Dacos. He fits my buy structure. It fits everything. Just whether I want to pay 111 for Dacos now, or if I go for value and go for maybe a Tom Green, or if I trade out a Lindsay and just get Heaney. I think Heaney's the best I can get to. But if I'm getting Boxall, I can't get Heaney from that. So it's a tricky week for trades. Teams are going to dictate what I'm going to do. But at the moment, Sheezel captain, Brayshaw vice captain. If I bring Dacos in, he'll be my VC. If I don't get Dacos, I won't be bringing in anyone above Brazier on my list, so Brazier will be my VC. So I will have a VC tonight because I'm expecting to have one of these guys available as a red dot, so like a boy or something there. So that's what I'm looking at doing this week. But let me know in the comments below, guys, who you're going with your captain and vice captain this week. Really tough week for captains, as I said. So it'd be interested to see who you guys are going with your captain and vice captain this week. So let me know in the comments below what you guys are doing and any questions you guys have. Put them in the comments and I'll try and get to them when I can. But if you want your questions answered and you want a guaranteed answer, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics, or you can tune into my watch along tonight. I'm doing a watch along for the Freo and Collingwood game, so make sure you guys tune into that. I'll start the stream about 10-15 minutes before the game. So it starts at 8:10 Eastern. So I'll probably go live at 7:40. Sorry, 7:50 Eastern time. So about 5:50 Perth time. Go live about there. Might even be slightly sooner. And we'll be chatting some fantasy, answering a heap of your questions before lockout. And then we can watch the game together, hopefully seeing some good scores from our players. So looking forward to that one. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Be very much appreciated. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're nearly at 3,800 and we're only just over 200 away from 4K. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. Get involved in all the fun daily content here on the AFL Fantasy Fanatics YouTube channel. So thanks everyone for tuning in as always. Smash like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys tonight for the watch along. So thanks everyone. Catch you then. See ya.